What big changes will we see for the Rams after the bye? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Join the party, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, and give us your score predictions for the Rams-Raiders this Sunday from SoFi. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. SI, Bleacher Report, 24/7 Sports, Dodgers Nation, the Rams 4 Locked On. As always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 9th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, can the Rams keep hope alive with a win over the Raiders on Sunday? Also, Sean McVay hints at big changes possibly to the depth chart. All that more. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Travis. So, look, I mean, if you want to have any sliver of hope of trying to get back on track this season, you need to win on Sunday. That's obvious. But first, we're talking about the show. Hopefully, Antonio Pierce or Tom Brady or any of these Raiders people weren't the ones that stole Connor McDermott's playbook from him. Because if you saw TMZ reporting that someone stole Connor McDermott's playbook, is this something, nothing, or everything?
It's well, I'm assuming, and just forgive me for assuming here for a second. I'm assuming it has a password, a thumbprint, a retinal scan, something that locks our phones. So all of these things. This isn't like the Brady Bunch where Marsha left the playbook on the kitchen table and Jerry Rogers came in and stole it off the coffee table. These are all digital. It's all locked. So I think the Rams are okay when it comes to having a playbook stolen from them.
Yeah, teams give out the electronic versions, and they have plays, practice footage, and they upload onto them. But yeah, whoever took that tablet, I mean, they're not going to get any of the plays or the secrets, but you never know. I mean, come on now. With Apple, they can kind of wipe it and that kind of thing to make sure that no one gets it. But I'm just saying, I mean, Connor McDermott, UCLA guy, so be a little more protective.
All right. Now I get it.
Be protective of your stuff, okay, man? Come on. We don't take any risks, especially against the Raiders of all teams this Sunday. But one of the big
UCLA guys are supposed to be the smart guys. They're supposed to lock their cars or whatever it is, or put your stuff away. That a Bruin let you. By the way, I went to your Bruins on Saturday night against Minnesota.
Oof.
Sorry, buddy.
Why could you go run onto the field and call that timeout in the last 40 seconds with that terrible clock mismanagement by Deshaun Foster? But yeah, it's
what I didn't know, because I don't pay attention to UCLA football all that carefully, is that you have a quarterback that's 5'2". That's exciting. That's a bold choice to go out there with a guy that can't see over the line of scrimmage. That's fun.
Like I said, modern day St. John Bosco -7.5 right now against UCLA. That would be the Vegas line against the Bruins. But hey, our Dodgers are one win away from the World Series. Our Rams have hope. Hope springs eternal after the bye week. So there's better things to think about in this city right now. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, you look at this game on Sunday. We know that it's a must win, but I think kind of this first part is, what does this team look like after the bye week? What changes are we going to see? And Sean McVay did hint at the possibility of making some changes to the depth chart. And I think first and foremost, kind of the number one thing I want to see is changes at the linebacker spot. I mean, what do you do at the linebacker spot? Because so far this season, it definitely has been very disappointing. And I think Omar Speights, we saw him just step onto the scene during this preseason. Yeah. And there was all this hype around him. You end up trading away Ernest Jones. He has the athleticism. I think that what do you have to lose by kind of seeing what you have in Omar Speights and seeing what he could be, or Jake Hummel?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that we're this close to having an evaluation period that could last, a couple of months, because not only is your season, your competitive season, your ability to maybe at least tell yourself a story for another week or so about maybe sliding back into that playoff picture, and not to get too far off the topic, but you look at the NFC playoff picture. There are probably 5 teams that you can feel that are locked in, which means there are 2 spots that are kind of available. So you start figuring out that, but none of that's available to you if you don't win on Sunday against the Raiders. But I think you're right. I think you're going to see some change in some personnel groups. I think the linebacker spot is something certainly to keep your eye on. Let's see what Spates looks like. Let's see if any of that stuff we saw in the preseason is transferable to regular season football. I think this is a good spot to go in there and take a look at it. The Raiders, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Raiders, but they're not a good team. They're not a particularly dangerous team. So this is an opportunity to maybe dip your toe in the water without a huge amount of risk. The Raiders, I'm sure, are saying the same thing about the Rams, that the Rams aren't a good team, that you can probably try to do a couple of things there. So we'll see. But like you mentioned off the top, Doug, I think not only is this game about keeping their very, very faint playoff hopes alive, but this game could have a whole bunch of repercussions on what your roster looks like the rest of the season. In particular, what your roster looks like with some of the more popular players, and in particular, Cooper Kupp. That if he's healthy and plays and the Rams don't look good or the Rams lose, I think there's just as good a chance as there isn't that Cooper Kupp ends this season on a different team. I think he's your most valuable trade asset. I think it's something that probably benefits him. It's probably something that benefits the team. So I really have my eyes on that. You win, you keep your guys, and you roll it into Minnesota on Thursday night. You lose, and your phone's ringing, and you're listening.
No doubt about it. I mean, you lose, and the rest of the season is about evaluating what you have for next season. Period. End of story. But if you win, you could kick the can for another week and hope that you can find a way to get back to 500 and anything can happen. The good thing is the talent certainly is there when they're healthy to be competitive. I think you look like at a team like the Raiders, this is a team that gets blown out. I mean, you're talking about a team that has given up lots of big scoring opportunities to guys like Bo Nix. And you look at quarterbacks that they've gone against, Justin Fields. I mean, it's not really the murderer's row of quarterbacks, and you're losing games by 20+ points in 3 of their losses. The Rams, 3 of their 4 losses are by less than a touchdown, right? So they've been competitive in these games. So certainly that is going to be a difficult conversation that they're going to have, is just the self-evaluation process of, okay, how does this roster look? And how can you expedite and accelerate a rebuild? I mean, no one likes to use the R word in a building like the Rams that has shown to be perennial playoff contenders every single year. So we know, like Sean McVay said, they're going to come out swinging in the second half. But the truth is, are they going to land punches early? And they're going to have to land a big one against the Raiders. But look, here's the thing, Travis. One thing, we're the kind of keep it 100, keep it a buck Rams podcast, right? Sometimes we have uncomfortable conversations about some of these players just because we like to keep it real. But hey, like I said, I bring my facts to the fight, right? And the truth is, going back to the linebacker spot, I mean, Roseboom, he literally statistically has been one of, if not the worst coverage linebackers in the NFL. He's allowed 19 catches on 21 targets for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you see the attack plan against this Rams defense. Opposing defenses, they're surgically taking them apart, and they're getting them off the field. I think is something they might have to do, because look, it made sense to go with Reeder and Roseboom at the beginning because they're more experienced. But the big question I have is, how big is the talent gap between someone like a Spades and a Hummel? And I just want to let it fly. Like, I mean, here's the thing about you. Like, I have, we've been fans of teams our whole life. We've covered teams professionally our whole life. For me, when the team is having an off year, sometimes I'm just as interested, because we get to see these young players and what they can do and how that impacts future draft picks and free agency. I'm not ready to give up on this 2024 season. The fanboy is still in me that wants to see this team compete. But also, I'm ready to see what all the excitement and buzz about Omar Speights in the preseason was about. I want to see it in the regular season, because no snaps yet for Speights.
Well, you said it, D-Mac. It's one of these, okay, I get going with experience when you're trying to figure out exactly what it is that you have and what your football team looks like and where your strengths and weaknesses are and how to address those things. Clearly, linebacking is one of your weaknesses. So the question is, whatever experience those players are bringing to the table, is it not trumped by perhaps an upgrade in talent in the other guys? And I think that's probably what Chris Shula is evaluating. I think that's probably what Sean McVay is evaluating. So we're really close. And like you said, the Raiders are actually the exact right opponent at the exact right time, because you're going to get you're either going to win a game and say, okay, we can continue to fight and move forward and try to beat the Minnesota Vikings in 4.5 or 3.5 days. Or even if you win the game, you look bad. The Raiders are not good. They're going to give you the information like, look, if we can't just mop the floor with these guys, what are we doing here? And then you're making probably a different group of decisions. So I think it could happen in the linebacking. I think that you're going to start to see, I think they still have big problems in the back end of the defense, the secondary. They haven't been able to cover all year long. And then, of course, you're going to start talking about the offensive side as well, and who stays and who goes, and let's see who can do the things that we need to do for 2025 and beyond.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about more changes we want to see, and also something in the backfield as well. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
All right. So if you are like me, and this is one of my areas of incredible excitement, especially the old stuff, we're talking about collecting cards, right? The idea of spending $2,000 or more, though, on Luka Doncic, Ellie De La Cruz, Patrick Mahomes, the rookie cards, right? It just isn't in the cards. I love collecting. I really do. But that's a lot of money to drop, right? But thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that is listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides a real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. And slab packs from Arena Club are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. So whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform that you absolutely have to check out. And right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL and use the same code, LockedOnNFL, LOCKEDONNFL, LockedOnNFL. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL, code LockedOffNFL for 10% off of your first purchase. And you've heard us talk about this as well, right? Let's talk about Prize Picks, which takes something that's awesome and makes it more awesome. That's what Prize Picks is. You love playoff baseball. D-Mac and I love playoff baseball. You love the NFL. D-Mac and I love the NFL. Prize Picks can make it even more fun. You just pick more or less. You look at the stat projections. For instance, Justin Jefferson, more or less than 83.5 yards. It's that easy. And with as little as 4 correct picks, you can win up to 100 times your money. That's fun, that's exciting, and you can get paid. So download that Prize Picks app today. Go find your Prize Picks app in your App Store, Google Play Store. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those every listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Can't thank you enough. And you can join that Everyday Listeners Club too. We got a little post-bye-week special. Membership is completely free right now. So join that Everyday Listeners Club too. Don't miss an episode, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. So here in our second segment, Travis, well, first of all, I mean, look, we're a proper society on Sunday. The Rams are going with the blue tops and the soul pants. The Rams royal with the soul. Just stick with this combination, okay? Like, this is the combination.
That's your uniform.
It's their best uniform. Well, I think the white, and I know that you like the blue, and I still like the white because that's where you won Super Bowl 56, so I get those warm and fuzzies.
I can do that.
Still, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, that's the one that pops. Yep. I want to see this at home, okay? Yep. Especially if you got like the Niners in town. It's going to be a heavy Raiders contingent. The silver and black is going to be heavy. Nothing that this team isn't used to. Right. So definitely like seeing that uniform combination. Also, like, how about this? Baker Mayfield always comes to mind when this matchup.
Absolutely.
I mean, the 98-yard drive, the touchdown to Van Jefferson, but the best part of that game was Baker Mayfield thought that he was an actual Ram, headbutting dudes without a helmet. I mean, dude's psychotic. That's the one thing that sticks out in my mind. Not the touchdown, which was a great moment. The Rams hadn't won in 7 games. It was the headbutt. Bro, come on now. At least do it with a guy wearing a Guardian helmet. You know what I mean?
The headbutt was classic Baker Mayfield for sure. And if that's your moment, I want to share mine with you, because this was the season from you-know-what. This was a team that couldn't get anything going. They finished 5-12. It was just a complete bust of a season. But you played a huge chunk of that season with John Wolford as your quarterback, with Bryce Perkins as your quarterback. And you got kind of used to just looking and go, oh boy, that's not really working out all that well. Here comes Baker Mayfield on a Thursday night on a short week, and he threw one pass. You're like, oh, that's an NFL quarterback. That's what that looks like. Right. And I get that Baker Mayfield has had an up and down career. I'm a fan of his, but one pass in, you're like, oh, yeah, that's what an NFL quarterback should look like when he lets go of the ball. And it was a great night. And hopefully the Rams don't have to go 92 yards with a minute left on the clock. Hopefully it's a much more comfortable win than that. But it does bring back a lot of fond memories for sure.
Definitely does. So, yeah, a little get-right game against the Raiders could definitely help get this season where we hope it gets. And, like, you look at what this team looks like from the depth chart standpoint, from the way that they're utilizing their players. Sean McVay did say, when asked if they were going to make any changes, he said there will be some. I'll talk to you guys about that. There will be some different things that we'll look at. I do think where it's available, competition brings out the best in guys. It might be some different things you see offensively that we will explore to see guys compete. And then defensively, it's the same sort of thing, looking at ways to get guys involved. Those are definitely things that you'll see. So we talked about one possible change at the linebacker spot, and they also have made some changes that have had a positive impact. You benched Trey White, and then Darius Williams returning. He's made a massive difference at cornerback. Akella Witherspoon, Kobe Durant, they played better at the outside spot. I think you're feeling good about that. But the question is, if Cooper Kupp comes back, what does that mean for guys like Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, and Jordan Whittington? Clearly, their playing time is going to go down. But the one area I think we could see a big difference right off the bat is more Blake Corum. That's the guy you took in the 3rd round. That's the guy that can give you another look. And you see the way he can get through tackles and bounce off guys. I'm very excited about the possibility of more Blake Corum after the bye.
Yeah, me too. I think that he's a good football player. I think you finally saw him get an opportunity going into the bye. You finally saw him in some meaningful action there. That was, I think, exciting. I think it was maybe a little overdue. I would have liked to have seen it a little sooner. Maybe there's some pass pro stuff that McVay and Stafford just weren't comfortable with. So, I will trust in them that timeline was about right. But I think you're right. I think that you're going to see him more. I think that he'll be effective. I think Kyren Williams will be more effective with slightly fewer opportunities out there. When you have to play virtually every snap, that's asking a lot out of a running back. If Corum can spell him there, I think that's very valuable. And you're getting a similar sort of guy. So I like that a lot. I want to go back to something you said about the wide receivers with the return of Cooper Kupp. Here's who I hope doesn't come off the field. Jordan Whittington. I want to see more of him. I know what Tutu is. I know that I'm not on the Tutu train. That's not my deal. I get it. But that's not an NFL guy that you can rely on. He's a gadget guy. He's really fast, but he's small. And every time he gets tackled, I'm afraid he's not getting up. Jordan Whittington kind of fits that mold of the Rams wide receiver that we've seen, whether it's Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua, these big, strong, powerful guys that are effective in the running game. Jordan Whittington seems to fit that mold pretty well. I'd like to see him continue to get opportunities. So whoever comes off, I just hope it's not Jordan Whittington.
Yeah, Jordan Whittington is certainly that, like I said, you go into a lab and you're trying to make the prototypical Rams receiver. He's the guy that kind of pops out. Yep. Also, I mean, you talk about a Tutu Atwell. He's made some plays. He definitely has shown that if you give him opportunities, he can take full advantage of that. But how about Xavier Smith as a guy who could possibly get some opportunities? I mean, he caught 13 passes in the preseason. That was the most on the team. He also carried the ball 4 times for 25 yards. I mean, what if you see him on some jet sweeps, some screen passes, some handoffs, some gadget plays? I mean, you got that speed, and that's something that this offense has lacked through the years. Look, I mean, at this point, I'm ready to get weird. I'm ready to experiment. I'm ready to try new things just to see and excite the offense and try to give a charge somewhere.
Yeah, I am. And what do you have to lose? You're 1-5. You're 1-4. You know, you've got a. It's not like you're protecting a playoff spot. It's not like you're competing for a division title at this point in the season. Yeah, open up the bag, go in there and try some things along the way. But again, I'm not trying to be too pessimistic about their playoff chances. I'm just trying to be realistic. The fact of the matter is, I think we know what Tutu Atwell is. For better or for worse, he is what he is. For better or for worse, Demarcus Robinson is what he is. Like the information is there for those players, whether it's Xavier Smith, whether it's Jordan Whittington, some of these guys who maybe like, let me see that again. Let me see how they do in this situation. Let me see how they do with this form. Like, let's experiment with those guys. You're trying to win the games for sure because there still is a flicker of hope. But I don't have any questions about what Demarcus Robinson is. He is a capable NFL wide receiver. He's not particularly special. He's fine. Tutu Atwell is that gadget guy, that fast guy. Like, let's see what other cards you have in your deck. And I think that starts happening on Sunday, or at least I hope it does.
Yeah, it's time to scratch off these lottery tickets, right? And see what these guys are. I think for me with Blake Corum, it's the fact that you kind of have the eye test thing, the eye test past at this point. He clearly has juice. There's something about the dude. He got 2 touches against the Packers. First 2, 20 yards. He rushed for 25 yards total. Rushed for over 5 yards per carry. This is not to say that Kyren Williams isn't the guy, but I think that we've seen Kyren Williams deal with injuries. Why not keep the best, most fresh version of him, and he makes the most of his opportunity? So I'm not asking for 25 snaps. I'm asking for 5 to 10 to 12 carries per game, and especially I think it preserves Kyren Williams in the long run. So I want to see that following the bye week, man. Blake Corum.
Let's go.
Some more touches. But coming up next, talk more about this Rams-Raiders series, more things we want to see. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
NFL fans, you can enjoy the season with a massive return on FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Number one. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more on the very same page where you're placing your bets. They're going to get you started at FanDuel with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. Let's say that again, because that's an unbelievable deal. $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel. But you got to have the FanDuel app on your phone. You can go to FanDuel.com. And when you open that up, you look at this right now. Rams are a 6.5-point favorite against the Raiders. The team with 1 win is a 6.5-point favorite. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's take a look. You got some player props. You've got the money line. You've got some spreads. You got all the different things you want at FanDuel. But you can't do it if you don't have the app on your phone. You can't do it if you don't go to FanDuel.com. So go to FanDuel.com, get that app on your phone, and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet. 6.5-point favorite. Okay.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for being Locked On Rams, your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Yeah, look, the Raiders having issues, man. I mean, Devontae Adams, he's sleeping over at Aaron Rodgers' house. I mean, you got the Tom Brady ownership thing with Tom Brady now, his whole broadcasting career has all these strict rules. I mean, you have Antonio.
Can we talk about that for a second? Can we talk? Yeah. Look, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. Tom Brady obviously is very, very good at making decisions, and I'm not here to criticize Tom Brady at all. But this Raider thing is the perfect opportunity to go, peace out on the broadcasting. I want to be a full-time, I want to be invested in my ownership. I can't really do the broadcasting the way that everybody would like. Can't sit in the media center, et cetera. The Tom Brady, the broadcaster, always felt to me as like the most temporary gig that I've ever seen. I get it. Somebody offers you $30+ million. You say yes, and you start cashing the checks, but I never thought he was going to be there long-term to begin with.
Yeah, I think the thing is for Tom Brady, of course, great looking guy and all that stuff. But I think that to initiate him into Raider Nation, you got to give him the Mark Davis haircut. I mean, the Photoshops are out there. But
by the power of Grayskull.
Exactly. You got to do it, man. Other thing, too, man, can you imagine if you're a Raiders fan, right? I mean, you still wake up at 3:30 in the morning in a cold sweat after a nightmare of the tuck rule, and then dude buys a 10% stake or your minority owner of your team, and that happens. I mean, Tom Brady has kind of admitted since that it was a fumble. It's not his fault that they made that call, but
he didn't make the rule.
Yeah, he didn't make the rule, but really interesting stuff. I mean, kind of the point how this kind of links to the Rams, I guess I would say, is just there's a lot of things that are going on with the Raiders that just doesn't have to do with their play on the field, right? I mean, you don't have a quarterback. I mean, Gardner Minshew beat out Aiden McConnell, and then he didn't have a lot of success early on the season. You got McConnell back. I mean, their quarterback play has been substandard, and I think there's just you point out the fact that a 1-4 team is a 6.5 point favorite over a team that has 2 wins. And you're going to have a lot of Raider fans there. It kind of shows you how Vegas, how the league kind of feels about this Raiders team. And this is the perfect opportunity. I mean, if you are the Rams, you know how much talent you do have. You know you still have Matthew Stafford, and you still have Sean McVay. And you're going to be getting guys back. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. And there is a little sliver of hope. There is a path to, at the very least, the floor being make this season respectable and the ceiling being okay. Just like that, it's a bad NFC West. No teams are really standing out. I mean, you're a nice little run away from keeping things interesting. So the Raiders are the perfect team to play after bye, especially when you got a short week against an undefeated Vikings team the following week. So I'm throwing out my pick. I got the Rams winning this week. I think you got to go with that win. You're going to see a lot of sad silver and black, just like you saw sad Niners fans a couple weeks ago. I think we're going to see a big Kyron game, a big Matthew Stafford game. I got the Rams winning. I think they score over 30 points in this one, 31-17 Rams.
Yeah, look, 31 feels like 131.
I need it, though.
They have not moved the ball all that well. But like you said, D-Mac, all the reasons that you gave, this is the perfect storm for them to be able to come back and do the thing that they haven't been able to done all year, which is play a complete football game. I was talking with JB Long, the voice of the Rams. He came through the studio the other day, and he said something that I thought was really spot on. He said, we still haven't seen them play a total game in all 3 phases. Now, and I said back to him, I said, can they? Like, are they capable of doing that as currently constructed with the amount of injuries they have, with the talent level that they have on the team right now? Can they do that? And if you can't do it against the Raiders, maybe we know the answer to that. If you can do it against the Raiders, maybe it kind of launches you into a similar, plane that you saw last year, where coming out of the bye, things started to come together. You get you get Kupp back hopefully this week. You got Puka and Avila waiting for you, not that long after that. Maybe by the time you get to early November, those guys are back. And if you can just hold on until the reinforcements show up, maybe you can do it. If the other thing happens, that goes back to what we opened the show with, which is, okay, let's see what we have moving forward. They're going to beat the Raiders. I think you and I come in here on Monday morning and we're talking about a win. The question is whether or not we're talking about, it's a win, but it's against the Raiders, who are trash and didn't look very good. Or it's what you said, where, hey, that was a complete football game. They did put up 30 points. They held the opponent in the teens, and then you can kind of start to build on that. I think they win. I just don't know which of those 2 wins it's going to be.
That's such a great point, Travis. If they squeak one by and it's just an ugly football game, it's, all wins aren't created equally. But if they go out there and dominate, they go out there and they flash their potential, you could sit back and say, okay, that's the Rams team, at least most of it that we thought we were getting to start this year, when you were coming off a surprise playoff berth last year and you solidified the offensive line. You felt good heading into this season. So I definitely think it's a fantastic point. It's not just it's not that you win, it's how you win. And of course, we got baseball in the mind because of the Dodgers. I don't know about you, man, but this is the best my blood pressure has ever felt doing a National League Championship Series covering the Dodgers. Yeah. It'd be nice to get a nice, comfortable win where we're stress-free. We're just getting the blowouts. I know Major League Baseball doesn't like these Dodgers
I don't care.
By 10 runs. I love it. I hope they win every game by 15 runs. I hope the Rams win every game by 20-plus points. That's how I get down as a fan.
When was the last time an NLCS game felt like a June game against the Rockies? Because that's what these games feel like. They're just painting people, and everything is kind of coming together. But I also have been through this enough and been hurt enough and scarred enough to know that it's one bad pitching performance away. Like, are they going to blow it? So let's put the finishing touches on this thing this afternoon for sure.
The fact, Travis, that we were looking at like regular season level subplots, like, oh, is Mookie going to hit for the cycle? Is Max Muncy going to set a new record? All that stuff. It was beautiful. But let's hope it's a big weekend for LA sports. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.